Gerry, you've been a Celtic supporter for a number of years now. Can you maybe explain why a lot of our support might recognise you at games?
I suppose it's quite easy, Kenny. Obviously, I was born with Thalidomide, 1962, and basically I'm quite recognisable. I think a lot of the fans would recognise me, albeit, recently I've been used a wheelchair over the last, 10 years. But prior to that, I'd walked about, played football, played golf, and followed the boys all over the world. So I probably am recognisable.
Can I take you back to, what was your first Celtic game, or perhaps your earliest Celtic memory?
I think my earliest Celtic memory, people maybe correct me here if I'm wrong, but I think we beat Raith Rovers 7-1 at Celtic Park one night. I think Vic Davidson, that sticks in my mind. Victor Davidson made his debut that night and was the next great thing, and he did have a good game, I must admit. But unfortunately, when I was younger, due to my physical disability, my dad, in those days, the older generation, my dad and his pal used to go to the games, and it would be, a few drinks before the game and a few drinks after the game and whatever. And I maybe cramped his style a wee bit, and I'm not criticising my dad for that, God rest him. I can understand why he did that. So I didn't really get to a lot of the games in my younger years, and it was a guy called Tony McGuinness. I think a lot of the Celtic fans will know Big Tony. Unfortunately, died quite recently, and Tony was involved with East Kilbride Hospice and everything. He was a friend of the family, and Tony took me under his wing, as it were, and started taking me to the home games, and it was fantastic. So that was how I get right into the team. Obviously, before that, I'd been a fan anyway, watching them on the telly and all that. But it was Big Tony and my dad that took me to the games at first.
So to take you back to that time when you were first going to games and things like that, and to look at the kind of Scottish perspective on Thalidomide, is there a reason why there is around 55 people who have been affected by it?
No, I mean, there's only 470 UK wide, so in Scotland it just so happens there's 55 of us left. I don't know how many people lost, babies at birth, and certainly I know a few people that have died and whatever. Bearing in mind that when we were all born, we were only expected to live 10 years. And as I say, the government at the time, well, Distillers Company at the time, made a payment in 1973 when we were all 11, 10 and 11 and stuff like that, made a payment out into the Thalidomide Trust, and the Trust administers that for us to this day. But it's basically the awareness campaign that we're going to talk about, is to really bring the German company to justice.
Can you give us an indication of the effects of thalidomide and how it was first understood, but back of course when you were first born? I
don't think they knew what to do with most of us, to be honest with you. I think we were all fitted with, if it was your legs that were affected, mainly like me, you were fitted with prosthetic limbs. Some of the Thalidomiders had, the short arms and whatever, so they were fitted with arms and all the rest of it. Funny thing about that is, all the good intentions of the medical profession at the time, and all the parents, in my case, to make me look the same height as everybody else, so that I wouldn't stick out in the crowd, which is, you asked me earlier on about the Celtic fans, but that's great. I've not got a problem with that. No, as I say, the funny thing about it was I was at a conference about 4 years ago, and it was a German doctor, I think his name was Klaus Newman, who was the head over in Britain of the limb department, prosthetic limbs, I think, down at Roehampton. And I actually met him. I went up and spoke to him, and the funny thing was, not one of us at the conference was wearing a prosthetic limb. So I think that tells you something, how independent the Thalidomiders are. And, they've all just got on with their lives the same as I have.
Do you think, in looking at kind of Scottish society, obviously you're out there and you're going to Celtic games and people do recognise you and speak to you, do you think there's maybe a lack of understanding in Scottish society about the effects of thalidomide and actually what happened? That's
a great point, Kenny, to be honest with you. I think that's the reason for the awareness campaign. It's mainly, I think people under, maybe 35, a lot of them don't know anything about thalidomide. In fact, I spoke to Paul Brennan at Celtic Quick News, and Paul had run an article on his website, and it was fantastic, got a great reaction. And Paul himself had actually said to me that there was guys in his work that hadn't heard of it at all. They were all in their 20s, and Paul asked them and none of them knew anything about it. But Paul was one of the Celtic fans that did recognise me at a game, so there you go.
So speaking about thalidomide and how it's affected you, you've also mentioned previously that you very much believe Celtic as a family. So how has the Celtic family helped you in terms of coping with what happened to you?
Well, the Celtic family, you know, it's been fantastic. I mean, obviously the club was, you know, where the origins were, you know, opened up to help the poor children, the Irish children that came over, and feed them and whatever. And the whole ethos of our club, I think a lot of football clubs are jealous of Celtic's history. I myself, I don't know if I can latch on to a wee bit of things where obviously I was at a disadvantage myself physically or whatever. Although at the time I would point out, Kenny, that back then when we were under 5 years old, I think people thought it wasn't just physical, and a lot of the parents had to fight to get us to go to mainstream schools. Thankfully my mum and dad did, and or I don't know, I might not have turned out to be a Celtic fan the way things went, but no, to be fair, the club, the whole ethos of the club, the spirit of the club's fantastic. All the fans know that. We've got a great support, absolutely second to none, and as I say, a couple of wee things I've done, you know, regarding the awareness campaign. I've got no doubt that Celtic fans will rally around and give us all of his support in our quest to get this German company brought to justice.
So you touched on it there, so what is it that you're asking the Celtic support worldwide to do here?
Basically just your support. It's, you know, we're not asking for any money or anything like that whatsoever. We're just looking for support. There's a website, Show Your Hand, www.showyourhand.org. We had a fantastic response in Celtic Quick News. I think there was 1,000 hits within 48 hours. I was actually on holiday in Portugal on the golf course, not playing I might add, just sitting having a wee beer on the buggy with my pals. And the text came in and the text kept flying in about, you know, the fantastic reaction. Even the text from England, from fellow Thalidomiders who are actually coordinating the campaign, and they couldn't believe the Celtic fans. They just thought this was absolutely fantastic, never seen anything like it, and they were absolutely delighted with that. So hopefully we've added a few Celtic fans there.
So if you're a Celtic supporter watching this, what do you have to do just now?
All I ask is just 5 minutes of your time. That is it basically. Just go on the site. It gives you the options. It's a hand, there's a big wall with 4 different colours of hands. I'll not tell you what colour that most of our fans have used, but it's looking quite a green wall I might add. But you just go in, put your name and your email on it, and it just basically shows the support. We're trying to get as many people as we can on the wall so that we can then present it to the German company and the German government, who I think the British government are also trying to engage a wee bit with to bring some pressure on them.
So Gerry, what's your hopes for this campaign?
Hopes of the campaign's quite simple. If everything works out right, they would apologise, you know, profusely for it. They did come out with some sort of an apology, I think in 2011 or whatever, and most of us were quite disappointed with it. It just mentioned the word regret. It didn't really say we're really sorry what happened to us all. So we're looking for an apology first and foremost, and then obviously, and it's not just for us, it's for thalidomide people worldwide. They're a massive company worth billions of pounds, and we're just looking for compensation to be paid out, and that's it.